G'day and salutations. Today's video, Zhuhai Airshow. Let's take a look and see what's on display. Well, the police are onto me, I better start mingling. Let's head to Hall 1. So in Hall 1, this is going to be non-scripted. We'll go through the halls in order. And a lot of aviation in Hall 1, mainly aviation, including the AG600 amphibian, which I've done a separate briefing on, link below. But the focus here and where most interest was on fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft. You can see there the various helicopters, Z20, Z9, Z10, Z818 family. But the main focus as you walked into Hall 1 was on the scale models of the J20S and the J35A, including some of the missiles there, the PL-10 and the PL-15 models with the aircraft as soon as you come through the main entrance of Hall 1. So yeah, Hall 1, focus on aircraft. But as I said, not just the fast jets, helicopters and other jets, combat aircraft, including all the missiles, PL-10, 12 and 15. The J11B scale model there, which was interesting. And as I said, there's another J20 and J20S model there, together with the J10 and the J16. J16 we'll see later, it was on display, or aerial display as well, and we'll see that taxiing later in this abridged video. I'll do a longer video on the walkthrough for members, but this will just be about 15 to 20 minutes or so in this as a bit of a sampler. As I said, models of all the air-to-air and air-to-surface missiles in this Hall 1. Yeah, air-to-air and air-to-surface missiles, and a full spectrum of all of the PLA's UAVs. I've done a separate briefing on this, I'll link that below, but a huge theme was the unmanned air, ground, surface, subsurface craft. And here you see, yeah, the full spectrum of all of the PLA's UAVs, whether they're strike UAVs, ISR, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, EW or targeting UAVs from the very large down to the very small handheld, hand-launched UAVs. So it was certainly a major theme. In terms of helicopters, and we'll see some of these later outside, but the models of the Z8/18 family and the Z9 and vertical takeoff and landing UAVs were also on display. But we'll see some of these later, the actual real aircraft on the outside area. Pilot gear, ejector seat, personal weapons and stuff for the pilots. And the other main aspect were the non-kinetic weapons and other support equipment like electronic warfare, jammers, microwave weapons, electro-optical sights, very prevalent throughout the show, and lasers as well. Yeah, but a lot of counter-drone and drone, loitering munitions, suicide drones, on display, as well as lots of surveillance, including the big mobile radars, which we'll see later. Yeah, anti-UAV, a lot of anti-UAV on display, as well as loitering munitions themselves. Here's the larger 6x6 truck with a swarm launch vehicle, if you like, and there are smaller ones, and we'll see more of those later. And robot dogs, so a lot of robots, as well as the larger unmanned ground vehicles on display. still in Hall 1 at the moment. And larger remotely controlled autonomous vehicles on display here. We're going to see what this one is, the Smart Warrior unmanned vehicle. And then here we have, it's the complete sensing approach to, where are we here again? Missile defence, missile and UAV defence. So yeah, a lot of unmanned vehicles and robots. Oh, the land-based electromagnetic air defence system, electronic warfare vehicle on the standard 6x6 chassis that you see in the medium combined arms brigades. But the weaponry hall was the most frequented, the most popular, and you can see by the crowds waiting to get in. So many people, 80,000 people I think were there on this day. You need patience and you need to be comfortable with crowds. So yeah, the weaponry hall, very popular. Here we'll see all of the actual military vehicles, not models, but the actual military vehicles. And across to the left you have more of the sensors and microwave weapons, and we'll walk around and see those later. But to the right and right at the front were the tanks and infantry fighting vehicles, which of course the most popular for the crowds. So it was a real bottleneck coming through. So yeah, lots of vehicles on display. And just a word of a lot of the vehicles or equipment we're seeing aren't in PLA service and may never be in PLA service, they're for the export market. But some are, and some may end up being in PLA service. And this first one was interesting because of the tank with an active protection system actually employed on it, but whether that ends up in PLA service, as we see there, is a different story. You can see the APS at the rear of the hull. And then on this unmanned ground vehicle, you've noticed the 3 camera/sensors on the front. So it's the VU-T10 tracked unmanned ground vehicle. So all unmanned with I think it's a 35mm, a coax, probably 7.62, and with a twin ATGM launcher that can retract. Again, not saying that's going to be in PLA service, but it was certainly there on display, with lots of cameras and sensors around it. Then a wide variety of 8x8 vehicles with a variety of turrets on. Probably never going to end up in PLA service, but covering the full spectrum as we talked before. There's an electronic warfare countermeasure vehicle and other targeting sensor, a turret. Now you could put that on any of the in-service PLA vehicles, so that sort of capability can still be there, but whether these actually end up in PLA service is who knows. As I said, with unmanned vehicles and robots, we see both large and small ones. We saw a large one before, sort of medium to small size, both wheeled and tracked. The first one was a sensor vehicle, the wheels, and the one behind it tracked is more of a mobile weapon system with probably a 12.7mm machine gun and looks like 2 ATGM launchers. There was a wheeled 155 for export, and then a tracked 155, which looks very much like the one in service with the PLA. But the wheeled one there looks very much like for export. And as you would expect, lots of multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS, with a full range of missiles from the multiple numbers of smaller ones to less of the larger. That's the AR-3, with the pod design, which we've seen from the M142 HIMARS, and also a 155 but towed piece. Now, I'm not saying this is going to end up in the PLA service, But it could with the airborne forces or with the Marines, who need the lighter elements of the Marines, who need that 155 support but don't need, or a self-propelled version is not really the best option for them. So you could see that replacing some of the 122mm in the combined arms brigades for those lighter, more manoeuvrable units that don't need self-propelled systems. Wide variety of surface-to-air missile systems or air defence missile systems, with the full range of surface-to-air missiles, both the shorter to longer range, and gun missile system. Now, I don't know if this will end up in PLA service, but it's certainly on the standard PLA Ground Force medium combined arms brigade chassis, and it's got this example has a 35mm gun and two short-range SAM, surface-to-air missiles launchers. So that's certainly a possibility. And we move around from that system, which we'll just look at the nameplate, the LD S5L. Yep. And then the self-propelled anti-tank missile vehicles. And there was a wide range of ATGMs, which I'll show more of that in the longer version for members. But the two vehicles here are vehicles that are in service with both the medium combined arms brigades and the high mobility or light combined arms brigades. The medium one with the Red Arrow 10 on the armoured 6x6 chassis, as I said, the medium combined arms brigade with 4 launchers, and the lighter version, the Red Arrow 9s, with 8 launchers in a retractable launch system on the 4x4 armoured vehicle, which probably it will be in the light or high mobility formations. And UAVs, as I said, throughout, still in, this is in the weapons hall. The full-scale versions of the UAVs, you really get to see the size of them and the weapons that they can carry. And as I said before, covering that full range of both attack systems, ISR and EW versions, and targeting UAVs. So yeah, full range, even down to the smaller ones, which we'll see in a minute, which are the handheld or hand-launched capable ones, and a quadcopter there. So yeah, we see them all. They're mainly ISR and targeting. And then we have the loitering munitions, or the kamikaze suicide drones, and the vehicles for launching them. So again, this is that chassis that you might see in the light or high mobility formations, but still having a mobile launcher for a number of loitering munitions, or a swarm drone carrier, as one's called later. And I've covered these in previous briefings, in the UAV briefing, which I'll link below. So lots of drones, the full spectrum, as I said. Then we're moving from this in the weapons hall. Again, most of the people, weren't as many people here because we weren't seeing the sexy tanks and big self-propelled artillery and all this. Is more, electronic warfare, radars, communications vehicles, less interesting to the general public. So it wasn't quite as busy here as it was around the tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. So it had a bit more space because there's so many people there. It was difficult to get good shots, as you can imagine, and there's a lot of noise. That's why I've turned the noise off here and just talk over it, because there's a lot of background noise. And as I said, I will be doing specialised videos on more land, sea and air, and perhaps space, because I did also get to the Space Centre. And within those I might even break them down further depending on members' interests. See some of the larger unmanned ground vehicles, 8x8 but smaller 8x8 vehicles. First one's an EW version, the one behind it's a weapons carrier. But these are the larger ones, and then in the same area we had the smaller ones, which we'll get to in a minute. Smaller robotic dogs, and even the smaller tracked robotic weapons carriers. And then outside, lots of aircraft on display. This in particular I wanted to focus on the Army, the ground force helicopters. So we have the Z-20 tactical lift, troop carrying troop assault, and the Z-10 attack reconnaissance with the weapons loadout that it can take, or the variety at least, and the Z8/18 family. The L version here is shown with the large sponsons. So they showed all three, and the Z-20 was involved in flight demonstrations. So yeah, we see the actual proper versions of those three critical Army aviation assets. And of course, quite well reported, the J-15T Catabar carrier J-15 on display. You can see the catapult launch bar. It's really impressive how well the J-15 can fold and how it can reduce its wingspan so much. It's very impressive. And you can't do much about the length. It's a very long aircraft, of course, but really narrows the width, the wingspan. And while understandable for the children, I think for the adults this might have been their first air show, and they were very excited about all of the aircraft, even just when they're taxiing. The J-16 here going up for its flight demo, and it was very popular, as you can imagine, and very noisy.
Well, that concludes today's video on the Zhuhai Airshow walkabout. I hope you enjoyed it, and as I said, I'll try and do more specific videos on different aspects of the show.
That concludes the briefing. Hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like and share, and happy to take suggestions for future briefings